Karen Adam.
Just on the topic of food security, and just earlier you touched upon the cost of living crisis. We have a situation at the moment that's driving up poverty. You said yourself that unemployment is low, yet we're seeing poverty running through the homes of working people, so there's a disconnect there. Inflation is set to be the highest for 40 years and fuel prices are soaring. Food prices are what being described as apocalyptic, and Justin King, the former boss of Sainsbury's, has pinpointed Britain's exit from the European Union as the cause of the current cost of living pressures as felt by British shoppers. This is amid a rise in the cost of food, as Mr King believes that the problems with trade between UK and Europe since Brexit has shown by the route, and also including the Northern Ireland protocol he believed were playing a role. People are suffering, Mr Eustace. There have been many comments by your colleagues which have invalidated and quite frankly, patronised the struggle people are living in their day-to-day lives at the moment. Comments such as to imply that people are less educated about cooking and getting access to fresh food.
Karen, could we have a question, please?
And yes, and you know, people should just get better paying jobs or increased working hours. Mr Eustace, this is really important, really topical at this time. People are facing hard choices. Do you agree with these comments? What more can we do across our governments to help support these people? What can you do in your position in regards to food security?
Yes, obviously, look, there's pressure on household incomes that the government absolutely acknowledges, and that's why we've put in place, some measures to try to help people, in particular with energy costs. The important thing to note on food is, yes, there is some pressure on retail food prices, but it would be wrong to describe it as apocalyptic or whatever term was used. It's if you look in April, prices rose by about 1.5%. In March, they rose by 0.2%. So there are some rises, certainly. But it's affecting certain sectors. And what we have in the UK is a very competitive retail sector where Sainsbury's and Tesco's are very much competing with Aldi. A lot of them are on the so-called Aldi price match. And in many staple products, there's quite ferocious retail competition, which is holding prices in check. So they're rising, but it's more modest than some of the newspaper reporting, would suggest. But nevertheless, at a time when people have, high energy costs, we do recognise there's a pressure on people's incomes. And if you are paying out a lot of money for your energy bills, of course, one of the first things you realise is that you're struggling to afford food, even if the price of food hasn't increased significantly. And that's the key thing, is that because we all need food, it's the first thing that people notice when budgets really are stretched. And that's why we're doing what we can to try to help people with energy costs. But it's very difficult. The driver of this is the international gas price. 75% of it's coming from that. Some of it's down to wage pressures as well. But the bulk of the rises that we're seeing are a direct consequence of the high gas price.
Thank you.
Thank you. And